When we look at social media intelligence, we want to think about how natural language processing can be used and how it fits within the spectrum of doing social media intelligence. So, as we all know, social media is very widely used. In fact, I looked up a quote and found the average time spent daily on social media in the US is 2 hours and 16 minutes as of 2024. And this is coming from Statista data, where you can see the daily time spent on social networking by internet users worldwide between 2012 and 2024. So you can see, of course, minutes per day is generally increasing. And you'll find that, of course, as you probably already assumed, a lot of people are using social media a lot of the time. And so a lot of content gets posted out on social media. And we want to be able to do some processing with this content. So how can natural language processing and techniques and tools within that space help us with informing intelligence around social media and the posts and content that are put out there? So I just listed a few examples here. One is sentiment analysis. So with using techniques in sentiment analysis in natural language processing, we can gauge whether a post is positive, negative, or neutral. So the feeling, the sentiment of that post. And this helps provide insight into public opinion, and that might be public opinion around a specific topic, or just public opinion in general for a snapshot in time. Here I've created a short code snippet. This is using the Natural Language Toolkit, which is a Python toolkit, and it's using the Vader module, which is a sentiment analysis tool. And I'm using a social data set from Hugging Face, which is a great resource for doing natural language processing research. So if we look at this social data set that I used in my example over at Hugging Face, so this is a social data set called Sentiment Analysis. Here's a preview of what the data set looks like. So it's text, and so this would be a social media post associated with a label. And the label is going to be 1 or 0, depending on if the sentiment is 1 positive or 0 negative. And so this is a binary categorization. Of course, there's levels in between 1 and 0, which we'll see in a minute. But this is a binary categorization on this particular data set. So everything is either positive or negative in the input data. This data set is put together by concatenating several different data sets. So this is why I like this one. It's going to be more interesting, I think, and more useful than simply using a data set from one source. So this is a concatenation of IMDb, Twitter, US airline sentiments, Google Play, and this Echo preprocessed data set. So you can click on each of these links and get more data information about the specific data sets there. But I like this combination of data sets all packaged together for us. And then, of course, we can use Hugging Face and their tools to make it a little bit easier to load and play with this data set. So if you want more information on how to use Hugging Face data, there's docs on Hugging Face for loading a data set. So if you find a data set you want to use within anywhere on Hugging Face, you can follow these tutorials for how to load your data set. And in this example, I kept it pretty simple. So I've installed NLTK and so I can use the Vader sentiment analysis. And then I installed data sets from Hugging Face so that I could use that data set. And so I import from NLTK Sentiment Vader the Sentiment Intensity Analyzer. And from data sets, I import load data set, and then I need to actually load the data set. And so here's the data set we just looked at. And when you load the data set, you can determine how you want to split it between training and testing data. And since I just wanted a simple example, I chose a training split, and I'm only looking at the first 5 records. So if you want the entire training set, you can omit this part here. But I just wanted to load and look at the first 5 records for this example. If you want to get an idea of what the data set looks like, you can print data set features, and this is a result of that output. So there's the text, which is a string, and then the label, which is an int. And as we saw when we were looking at the data, that label, that integer, is going to be 0 or 1. And then we initialize our analyzer from NLTK Vader, and we iterate through the items in the data set. So for each item, we are going to assign a label. So I want to use text labels, human readable labels. So I'm saying if the label is 0, assign it a negative, otherwise assign it a positive, because we saw in the data set we only had 0s and 1s. And this single line of code here uses this analyzer that we set up to get polarity scores. So polarity scores come back as a dictionary, and it's a dictionary of scores, and the scores are neg for negative, NEU for neutral, POS for positive, and then compound, which is a normalized value between -1 and 1. So when you run this, you can go ahead and print those scores out. So you can do a print statement of the scores to see what the entire dictionary looks like. But I just took the compound score, which is a normalized value between -1, which would be a negative sentiment, and +1, positive sentiment. And then I want to again convert that to human readable strings before I print it out. And to do this, you can choose whatever threshold you want based on those score range. And your threshold is going to be set based on, whatever application it is that you're using, how precise you need the outcome to be, or you might just use the polarity score all by itself. But I wanted to just have a quick output comparing the negative positive from the input training set. I wanted to see a negative positive in the output result so that I could compare them a little easier. And I just arbitrarily chose to use, if the compound polarity score is greater than 0.5, call it positive. If it's less than -0.5, call it negative. Otherwise, call it neutral. And then here I print the first, well, I said 30 here, but I'm actually now printing the first 50 chars of text, because some of these are actually pretty long, so you don't necessarily want to print them all out. So I print the first bit of the text, and then the label that came in from the training data, and then the results, so that I compare and see how well this code did. And in this example, in the first 5 examples, I believe that the result that I got was that using this setup was that 4 of the results matched the input training data set and 1 did not. So that's just a very simple introduction, some code that you can copy, save it, and run it yourself, just as a quick introduction to doing some kind of sentiment analysis. Another thing that we can do with natural language processing techniques in the social intelligence space is topic modeling. So topic modeling is going to help us identify trends and emerging issues that are in the public space. So those techniques involve clustering of related words and phrases so that you can identify trends. So you can think of something like if you've ever created a word cloud, or if you've ever seen a word cloud. That's really just trying to find how strong the different topics are in terms of how often they're appearing in the data that you're looking at. Techniques for topic modeling can sometimes use clustering strategies. You could certainly create your own technique using a clustering strategy. So for topic modeling, we do want to use an unsupervised approach, where when we looked at this first example and I talked about training and testing data, that was using a supervised approach to analyzing the data. In topic modeling, we want an unsupervised approach, so clustering would be an unsupervised approach. So we could pre-process our data, have it all prepared, and then do some clustering across all of the frequency of the words. Or we can use this popular GenSim library. So the GenSim library, which is widely used, it's called Topic Modeling for Humans. And so this is created to do topic modeling. And there is some example code here that you can copy and paste if you want to play with GenSim. And of course, go through the documentation here and learn how to do topic modeling using GenSim, which is a great library for doing that. And here I've borrowed an image from a source, which was a publication on topic modeling. So I have a link to the source here. And so this is topic modeling using several popular modeling techniques. And you can read this paper. I think the source that I linked to here is just the image on ResearchGate, but you can find the full text of the conference paper and read that if you'd like a deeper dive into topic modeling. So again, we're just clustering topics and looking at frequency of words within a topic to try and get a feel for emerging issues and trends that we find in the social media data. And the third example I gave for using natural language processing and social media intelligence is named entity recognition. So named entity recognition is all about identifying and recognizing names of people, places, and organizations in the social media conversations. And this, while it might seem simple, it actually can get pretty complicated, because people and places, for example, can have the same names, and sometimes those proper nouns can also be common nouns as well. And so named entity recognition is a field within natural language processing that can help us identify insights in social media. And the kind of things you might want to look for in this instance are your brand perception. For example, if you want to identify people that are talking about your brand, and you'll need named entity recognition to recognize when somebody's actually talking about your brand, to recognize your brand name. You'll also use this to track your marketing campaigns, so you'll have some named entities there. And, trying to identify crisis before they escalate. So if somebody is, if people are talking about your product or your service or your company, you can identify those posts using named entity recognition, and then you can do sentiment analysis to see if there's a positive or a negative sentiment around that. And you can do topic modeling to see what are the specific topics that people are talking about as they're associated to your company and your brand. So here I've created another quick code snippet. Here I'm importing spaCy, which is another natural language processing toolkit. So within this page, I've talked about 3 different toolkits used for natural language processing: NLTK, GenSim, and spaCy. And we'll use those throughout discussions on natural language processing and code examples. So here we import spaCy, and we load the spaCy model for named entity recognition. So there is a pre-trained small model. So I chose a small model here, so it's not going to be too taxing on your system if you want to copy this code and run it. So we load the model. You can put any sample social media text here. So here's an example of a social media post. and then you can process the text with spaCy. So when you process text with spaCy, it gives you a lot of information back, and you can iterate over that information. And here we're just going to print the text of the entity and the entity's label. So I encourage you to copy, run this code for a brief introduction to named entity recognition in addition to using spaCy.